my dad and mom have both had supernatural encounters and stuff, especially my mom. I don't know, ever since she was a child, like she's always had these weird things. Like she would look out the window and she would see like this old lady looking for her. This is what I had wrote down so that way I could remember everything that I had experienced as a child. I believe if you have had an experience, it makes you a believer in the paranormal. I grew up in a small town out in the Midwest of Iowa. I have 2 older brothers that I grew up with who have shared my experiences and their own. The first time I ever remember hearing something I could not explain, I was really young in elementary. At this time in my life, all I really had were my brothers. We had each other. My dad was a single dad working for us. My mom wasn't really in the picture that much at this time. I remember playing outside with my brothers one day after school. My dad was still at work. It wasn't that late. I'd say 5. It was still bright outside. I was playing by myself on top of the porch while my brothers played in the grass field in front of our house. Now, our neighborhood was really random and weird. These trailer parks that we lived in were randomly placed next to these abandoned houses. These houses used to freak us out, all the kids that lived around. One of them was burnt down almost and looked black and creepy, but the other one that really stuck out to me was the one in front of our house, the one where my brothers would play next to. This house was white and it even had these weird red stains on it. I always thought it was blood. Till this day, I don't know what it really was. I'm alone on the porch playing, pretending I have this talk show I used to watch TV with my grandma and listen to, the talk shows she would watch. My grandma would visit us a lot, but she wasn't there at this time. I remember being so into my little talk show that I screamed out if everyone was ready, and to my surprise, I heard another kid shout out yes. Right next to me, it was the weirdest thing ever. I was shocked. I looked over to my brothers and they weren't even paying attention. They were too into whatever they were playing. I decided to go check down the street thinking maybe somebody has been hearing me this whole time. Kind of embarrassed, but no one or anyone was paying attention to me. As a kid, you don't really pay a lot of attention to things like this when they happen, so you just shrug it off. We lived in those trailers for a while. Another time, I had been playing hide and go seek with one of my brothers and 2 of my cousins. It was already dark outside, but our family was outside cooking, so we weren't all alone. My brothers used to have this clubhouse in the woods right in front of our trailer that they made out of branches and leaves. There was this big oak tree that we all used to climb up. I was the seeker. Until this day, I'm still confused about what I saw. I looked up at the oak tree and saw a black shadow, almost like if it was wearing a hoodie. This thing had glowing red eyes. I still don't know why I didn't freak out as a child when I saw this thing. All I could say was, "I found you, Brandon, I found you." And in that moment, my brother and my cousins came out from the clubhouse. My brother said, "What are you talking about, Leslie? I'm over here." I try not to pay attention to the stuff I saw, but as an adult, you ask yourself, why didn't I pay closer attention to things? My dad eventually found a girlfriend and we moved out. Now, nothing much happened at our new place, but most of the time we were with my uncle and aunts. Now, their trailer park was more towards out in the country, barely leaving city limits. Iowa was made up by mostly land and cornfields, so these trailer parks were out in the cornfields. One night, I woke up next to my grandma and grandpa. They had came to visit from Mexico. I woke up in the middle of the night in my aunt's and uncle's bed. My grandma was right next to me at the foot of the bed. We were laying sideways while my grandpa was asleep the right way up. The way I was laying, I could look right into the kitchen and living room. I woke up not remembering where I was or how I even got there. As I looked out into the kitchen in pitch black, I could see these 2 white shadows. They looked almost like children. I first thought they were my 2 cousins who I was close in age to, but then again, they are also scared of the dark and would have turned the lights on. As I was thinking all this and tried to rub my eyes to see better, I heard a cup fall in the sink. You know that echo sound it makes when a cup falls in the sink? As soon as I heard that, I pulled the covers fast over me. I was shocked. I couldn't move. Whatever I just saw heard me move because I soon felt something come over and breathe over me. At this point, I was paralyzed in fear. I just started praying. I finally got the courage to try and wake my grandma, but she wouldn't wake up. Until my grandpa did, he went to the bathroom, and from the light in the hallway, I could see into the kitchen, only to see nothing there. The next day, I told my cousins what I had saw and one of my brothers. They all just sort of shrugged it off. The crazy thing is, though, I wasn't the only one who had experienced something supernatural. There are my aunts and uncles. My uncle had heard people knocking at night. No one would be there. He would hear knocking from like the front door. My older brother had a very creepy experience in my cousin's room. My two boy cousins had their own bathroom and bunk beds in their room, so all the cousins would come over and hang out in there. One night, my brother had been the last one to stay up playing video games. The bunk beds were full with my other cousins, so my brother had made a bed on the floor. He turned off the lights fast and ran to lay down. As he was closing his eyes, he started to hear footsteps around him and people whispering a full conversation. He couldn't understand what they were saying. My brother got the courage to stand up and turn the lights on and slept with them on. He decided just to ignore it. The bathroom in my cousin's room would always give me a weird vibe. It was small and just had a heavy feeling in there. There's so many stories that I have. My mom was able to see spirits as a kid. She said she would wake up at night and they would be next to her bed. She learned to somehow block it out and they stopped following her. Here and there, she would still have weird encounters, especially with this witch that would follow her into her dreams and tell her that she knew who she was. As an adult, I haven't had any weird thing happen as much. Still things I can't explain, but I'll save those for another time. All I can hope for is that it doesn't get passed on to my children. What I always thought it was because my dad always used to tell me when I was a child, because I would always be scared of the dark and be like, don't be scared, you're an angel, nothing's gonna happen to you. But you don't really pay too much attention to what it is, but then once you're older, you start realizing that, okay, I had all these like weird encounters that you can't really explain what it is. So I don't know, like I always thought maybe because I'm not baptized that like I see this stuff, but I don't know if that would, because there's people who are baptized and they still have experiences. My parents weren't together, so I don't know if that caused a lot of like negative energy, or if it even had to do with like where we live. Like maybe there was already like bad stuff there and it could have carried on with us just because we're children and we're more vulnerable to things. So like maybe it could have pushed on with us. But as an adult, like none of us have, like me and my brothers, we haven't really had any crazy experiences like that anymore. Oh yes, yeah, like I've told my boyfriend, like my family. I even told like one of my brothers, because my middle brother, he's, I don't know, like because it's three of us, like me and my two older brothers, but my middle brother, he's had the most crazy experiences out of me and my other brother, like to the point where he even saw the devil. I even told him about it and I was like, remember when you saw this and that? And he's like, I don't know, he tries to not really talk about it as much. It's just, oh, it was nothing, or just, but they were really like, I don't really know how to describe their reaction, but they were like, oh, you know, that, because the people that I tell my story to, I try to tell people that are also believers, because people who don't, like, I feel like if you haven't had an experience, you're not going to believe in this kind of stuff. They're going to think you're crazy, or, oh, like that didn't happen. But if you have had an experience, I feel like you'll understand.